So it's a dream of mine always to play in the NBA, to be like these guys.
Yeah.
To be able to wear the NBA logo, to have Jerry
Mhm.
West on my chest. That was something that I always envisioned. That
Yeah.
was just something I see. I make this shot, I'm gonna be the 10th pick, and then I'm gonna be #1 draft pick. That type of situation. When I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I never had a chance to really stay quiet about it, because one of the first situations that happened with me when I was playing in Turkey as a rookie was there was an article put out on me. I heard about me having multiple sclerosis, and within 20 minutes, there was an article put out with me quoted saying how I feel so terrible about what's happening. My career's over, and I feel sad. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So it went out in the public, and this is all false quote. I never talked to anybody. and it was just put out there, and it was on mainstream. So my social media started going crazy. This is in 2011, 2012. And people were calling me. I had 300 messages, and this is in between of me driving from Istanbul, Turkey, where I was playing, to my city, which is about 2 hours away.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths. And as always, we've got a real talk with a real leader. Today is a little bit of a special episode. Well, a lot of a special episode, actually, done in partnership with SameHere Mental Health Global Movement. Our guest today is an ambassador for SameHere. He is a professional basketball player, father, husband, and an MS warrior. The first to play in the NBA with MS. And I have to say, when I heard his story, I got the goosebumps. He's just so awesome. And Chris, thank you so much for joining. Folks, this is Chris Wright.
Thank you, Shauna. Thank you for having me on here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, I always tell you how I know the guests, and Chris and I were introduced recently by Eric Kussin. Eric is the founder of SameHere, CEO. He and I, air quotes, did time together in the NBA family. We were a part of the start of the MBDL, which is now the G League, and we've stayed close. Eric has been on the show, so if anybody hears his name and has remembers him from being on, so Eric reached out to me and said, "Hey, you've got to know Chris, and this is what he's up to and looking for." And I was like, anything for Eric, any friend of Eric's friend of mine. So, so let's start with that. Actually, Chris, help us root people in. What do you do with SameHere as a part of your platform?
Well, I was introduced to Eric and his nonprofit, SameHere, just off the strength of a good friend of mine who was actually an idol of mine growing up. His name was Mike Sweetney, who played for the New York Knicks. Mike Sweetney played for the New York Knicks. He actually grew up in PG County, Maryland. So I'm from PG County, Maryland, and I was, I watched him my whole career. He was one of those guys that, you grow up and you see somebody that's an NBA player, that's an NBA player. That's how we view Mike. And Mike went to Georgetown, had a great career, and was a lottery pick for the New York Knicks. And over time, I went to Georgetown, and we grew closer over the years. We played together in the summer and played in the TBT tournament, the $1 Million tournament together, which we ended up losing in the Final Four. But yeah, so it was a great experience for me. And it was kind of like a dream come true to play with somebody that you had looked up to for so long. And, just over the years, I got close with Mike and got close with his family. My wife got close with his wife, and he told me what he was doing, and he told me about him being an ambassador and speaking about mental health. I watched him and I followed some of the things he was doing. And just in a friendly conversation, he said, "Man, you should get involved if you want to." And so he introduced me to Eric, and immediately me and Eric hit it off. He's just a great guy, very personable, has a lot of charisma, and has a great personality. So before I left to come to Spain, we actually did a speaking engagement in New Jersey, which which Mike introduced me. And so that's how I got involved with it. And we've been staying in contact since I've been overseas. And, I'm looking forward to when I do get back in the summer to continue doing my work with him, and just to continue to build and try to do whatever I can to lend my story to try to help the next person, because my story has a lot of ups and downs and, highs and lows with it. So, and I think just being able to tell the story just will, could help in any way possible. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, like, folks, if you're listening, one of the things that I thought when Eric told me about Chris, and I got to read his story about his journey with MS. That was one of the things that really stood out to me about you, Chris, is like you being such an authentic person and leader, the way you tell your story, and really to expose that to have a positive impact. And that's so much of what I'm doing on this platform is, you know, showcasing people, diverse, authentic leaders who have the courage to do that. So just thank you. And I'm really excited for the opportunity to help you share that story here.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And it's crazy. The crazy thing about it, and I appreciate you having me on here, is that people always say, man, Chris, you really are speaking and forward and really adamant and standing firm and, you know, telling your story. But, you know, we'll get into that later. But just a simple fact, when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I never had a chance to really stay quiet about it, because one of the first situations that happened with me when I was playing in Turkey as a rookie was there was an article put out on me. I heard about me having multiple sclerosis, and within 20 minutes, there was an article put out with me quoted saying how I feel so terrible about what's happening. My career is over, and I feel sad. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So it went out in the public, and this is all false quote. I never talked to anybody. And it was just put out there, and it was on mainstream. So my social media started going crazy. This is in 2011, 2012. And people were calling me. I have 300 messages, and this is in between of me driving from Istanbul, Turkey, where I was playing, to my city, which is about 2 hours away. And I had no service back then. You know, if you run out of service, you know, so I didn't have any service. So I get to my location, I got like 300 messages, and people like, I'm sorry to hear this. I'm sorry. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Excuse my language, but
No, it's okay.
I'm like, what's going on? And so I never had a chance to like try to hide it. It was already out there before I even had an understanding of whatever it was. So I said, okay, I'm just going to embrace it, you know, and run with it.
It's so
You know?
interesting you said it, because one of the things that I was going to ask you was like, were you apprehensive at all? And then it's funny that you say that, because as I was writing it, I was writing myself the note to ask you that. I was thinking, well, because you're already in the public eye like that,
Right.
part of you almost were forced to tell, but even the way you tell the story, it was beyond that. It was like somebody else made that decision for you.
Yeah, completely. I had no control on, you know, even if I wanted to like try to hide this for my career purposes, you know, because this is uncharted territory. No one has played. So maybe I would have been more apprehensive. Maybe I would have been like, oh, let's not try to put this out there. Let's, you know, I don't want to do that, you know, because I'm trying to elevate my career, you know, but I had never had that chance. I never even was given that opportunity, because it was an article that was publicized. So it really damaged a lot of things. I never had a chance. That was also the same year that there was an NBA lockout. So after my senior season in college, and after the draft, there was no NBA for further notice. There was no talk. So everybody was going overseas and doing things of that nature. So I really was behind the eight ball on a lot of stuff. And then add the multiple sclerosis in the, you know, March or April of the next year. So that's kind of how it came out. I never had a chance to
Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in the way you say that, again, when I'm kind of like fast forwarding to a bunch of stuff, folks, so bear with me. But there's an article about Chris, and I have to say, like, I don't know what the hell rock I was living under, because I did not know about your story, and I feel like I really pay attention to sports and all that, but I didn't know about your story. So when Eric introduced us and I read the ESPN article that's linked in your IG profile, yes, I was like, it really struck me how like the positive way that it seems that you've moved forward through it. And it's just almost, the path is forward. The path is triumphing. The path is just no stone unturned type thing. And again, the way you describe that, in that moment, perhaps you had a different, the way it was, you know, told for you, right? Again, without you making that decision, it could have been very much like this bitterness could have overtaken you, or, you know, all of these things. So I think it's a really like a tribute to how your, you know, your strength and like your mental, like your mindset about it. That's at least what it seems to me.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not going to sit here in front like, you know, I didn't go through every.
I'm sure you were.
Yeah. Let's be real. I went through every emotion possible, you know, that you can go And I think that's part of the process too. You know, you got to
Right.
go through every emotion. When you hear something that's a life changing or life path,
Hmm.
you know, changing situation, then you're going to go through the motion. Anybody that only
Yeah.
person that doesn't cry, or and I know him, Socrates or somebody. You know what I'm saying? That was his only issue, is that he never cried. But other than
Right.
that, you know, everybody goes through all different type of emotions, and I went through them all. You know, I went through
Yeah.
them all. But after that, I've been fortunate to have I grew up in a great environment. I have a strong family that was my village, that sheltered me and they
Mm.
say, hey, we behind you, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me strength to, all right, let's figure this out. And
Yeah.
you know, that's how it kind of went for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you said earlier, I want to get a bit to like where you are right now, and you said you're in Spain right now. Are you still in the
Yes,
season, or
I'm
okay?
in season. Yeah, we're on I'm in Zaragoza, Spain,
Okay.
and we are in a FIBA window break right now. So we
Okay.
don't play for the next 2 weeks. So people
Okay.
that don't know, and there's 2 weeks in the season. They have European competitions coming up in the summer, so they
Hmm.
have qualifications. So players from different countries in Europe go back and play on the national team. So there's like a two week period where there's no games
Okay.
because they play on the weekends. So right now we're in the 2 week period where we don't have any games. But yeah, I'm playing in the ACB, which is the
Okay.
top division of Spain, and very tough league, very competitive league, and traditionally is known as one of the best leagues other than the NBA. So it's a really good league, really really competitive, and it's been fun. It's been
Yeah,
fun.
but
Yeah.
that's awesome. So we talk so much about people's evolution. So can we talk first? We're going to get to the details of your of more of the your MS and all of that. But talk us through your evolution. So from what I know, you were a standout at Georgetown. You started your professional career and spent time in the NBA, I believe in the G League. So talk to us, like, what's that journey been like, and whatever element of your personal life that you want to share in that too, because I think, again, I've been so close to the NBA family and basketball that I think I have a bit of a different view sometimes of athletes. But again, most people see you as a professional athlete and just playing the game. And so I
Right.
think, like, just again to give some human element of your journey, your evolution would be helpful, I think, for the audience.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm born and raised. I'm a Washington D.C. kid. I'm from PG County. I've been in Washington D.C. I went to high school in St. John's and in Washington St. John's College High School in
Yeah.
Washington D.C. I went to Catholic school, and then I went literally probably 3-4 miles down the street to Georgetown University. And I come from, my parents been married for 40 years, so I have a really strong foundation. My parents are from my dad is from New York. My mom is from Jersey.
Okay.
And so, that's been pretty much my background. So I always kind of I was fortunate enough, one of the few out of my friends to have both parents and have that background. And I was,
Yeah.
very secure. They were big on education. So it was big for me to go to school. It was big for me. As much as I have a great game in high school, great game in college, are you going to graduate, Chris? It was kind of that type of thing. And being a professional athlete was always a dream of mine, and it was something that I knew that I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew that's
Hmm.
what I wanted. The NBA was a dream of mine. It was
Okay.
just from a young kid. I was the biggest Washington Bullets fan you can ever imagine. I was the biggest Rod Strickland fan. I was the biggest. This is when Chris Webber and Rasheed Wallace and Juwan Howard, George Murison, all those guys. That was the guys that I grew up watching. New
Okay.
Jersey Nets and Philadelphia 76ers. I'm the biggest. Allen Iverson was my favorite player of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, don't get me started. I can talk about basketball and the history of basketball for years.
Oh, me,
We could,
I'm resisting leaning in and be like, "Ooh, the Nats who were I might have been there at that time." I mean, like, I'm
yeah.
resisting going into a basketball rabbit hole, just so the
I mean,
audience here.
that was Steph Marbury and all those years. Those are those years. So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm a basketball junkie, historian.
Yeah.
And so it was a dream of mine always to play in the NBA, to be like these guys.
Yeah.
To be able to wear the NBA logo, to have Jerry
Mhm.
West on my chest. That was something that I always envisioned. That
Yeah.
was just something I see. I make this shot, I'm gonna be the 10th pick, and then I'm gonna be no one draft pick. That type of situation. And so ironically, when I came out for the draft, that was the year that they were going through the new CBA. And so the draft happens like it always does on June 25th. And then after that, everything shut down. So I didn't get drafted. And then after the draft, everything shut down. No communication, no summer league, no workouts, no nothing. So at that time, and until further notice, no one knew when it was going to stop at that time. That was so I'm like, damn, out of all the years when I'm coming out, there's, you know what I'm saying? But I also knew that I wanted to get paid and be a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
So the next best option was to go overseas at the time. At that time, there was no D League at the time either, obviously because there was nothing going on. There was nothing going on. They had a D League, but it wasn't, active. So yeah, I went overseas and I started my rookie year in Turkey. This is when D Will went to Turkey.
Yeah.
Ty Lawson was in Lithuania playing for Zalgiris. Some other guys were going. I remember Lamar Odom was about to come over, and then the NBA went back. So it was a lot of things. It was a really weird time in the basketball world in terms of trying to figure it out, especially for rookies.
Right. Yeah.
So,
you're already in headlights, and then that happens.
Yeah, I'm already like, what do I do? But I was just excited to finally make some money. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh shit, I can finally get paid to play basketball now. This is awesome. Then I go back home, ball out. So what ended up happening is the NBA resumed in probably like, I can't remember when it resumed. Maybe that December or something like that. So guys started
something like Yeah,
it was like mid-season. So it was a short season, and it resumed. And so I went through my season, and that I was having a great rookie year. I was having a really good rookie year. I was putting up solid numbers. Things was going well. We're going really well. And then that's when I got diagnosed. I was in practice. I come to practice the next day. I'm shooting, just getting up extra shots, working out before practice, and then the symptoms of MS started coming. I lost all sensation in my right leg. I lost all sensation in my right arm, and it just shot through my entire body where I couldn't feel anything.
Wait, so when you say this, were you were like out there on the court and this is all happening, or was this over time?
No, this happened like this. It happened just like this on the court. You know how guys go through their pre-workout or on the court just working out? That's what I was doing. I was going through my normal stuff, working on ball handling, shooting, and all that stuff. And then I caught a pass, and I just felt like a rush of a tingling sensation go through my right hand. Right. And then it just shot through my hand and shot through my leg, and it just overtook my body to the point where I'm touching myself, and I can't feel anything.
Oh, man.
I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, what happened? Yesterday I'm winning sprints and all this stuff, and normal kid, normal rookie. And then now I can't feel anything. So I told the coach, and that's a whole nother story. I could talk about the coach, but that's a whole nother story. He didn't like rookies. You know what I'm saying? So, but at this time I was starting to gain his respect, and I was starting to gain his confidence because of the way I work and the way I was handling myself. And as well as with my teammates, because when you're a rookie, you got to prove yourself.
Yeah,
especially it's different when being a rookie in the NBA, where you're giving a X amount of money and people know your history. They don't really know you overseas like that,
Yeah.
You gotta prove yourself, and you come into a top division in Turkey, and these guys been making this amount of money. You new to, it's a lot of different culturally, the music. I mean, the language, the food, the everything is different. This is a Muslim speaking country. So you're hearing prayers over loudspeakers, which was a great experience for me. I really enjoyed it. One of my best friends is now, he's Muslim from my experience there. So it was a total culture shock, but I started to get adjusted to it. And as I'm getting adjusted to it, then I get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and this thing happens to the point where the next morning I can't walk. I can't stand up. I'm in a wheelchair, the whole nine. It was full blown. And I went to go see a specialist in Istanbul, and they said, I was clinically diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So boom, I'm like, dang, what, I didn't know what multiple sclerosis was. I had no idea, no clue. And, once the worst thing I probably did, which was the only thing I could do, is type in multiple sclerosis on Google.
Oh my God. My sister tells me, do not visit Dr. Google.
It was the
Oh, you just
worst thing I
the
could do.
worst decision. Yeah.
It was the worst decision, and I
Oh,
heard it was only negative
yeah,
connotations
yeah, yeah.
associated with it. And eventually, I was able to figure out things. I met with my neurologist that I'm still working with today,
Oh,
and within 8 months, I was in the NBA,
ah,
playing the NBA
that's
with that.
awesome.
Playing the NBA with the Dallas Mavericks, and then so it's just been it was a journey.
Yeah.
It was an extreme journey up and down and throughout. Now I'm in my 12th year, going
Mm,
from many different plays. I played 6 years in Italy. I played in
yeah.
Israel. I played in France. I played twice in Turkey. I played in the D League twice. I don't know about the G League. I know about the D League.
Okay, good, good. Wait, so what was your team in the D League? But you said
I
you played
played.
twice.
Yeah, I played for the Iowa Energy.
Okay,
Now it's the Iowa Wolves,
okay.
and then I played for the Bakersfield Jam.
See, now none of those existed when I
They're
was
right
in,
there.
so that's what a
Okay.
dinosaur I am.
But
But
you were there. You were in Asheville. That
I
should be
was,
those are the beginning teams.
yeah, I was there. There was 8 original teams, and I was there during the start of the league and the
Awesome.
first 2.5 years at Asheville. So
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, I know about the D. Like, I'm jealous of the G League players now. Like, you guys have no idea what we were doing. I mean, we were warming up, and they were washing. We were warming up in our sweatsuits,
oh yeah.
and they were washing our stuff. So we were wearing uniforms on back to backs. We were putting on our uniforms, and they were still damp. But it was awesome though. I loved the G League. I loved it. It was awesome. It
No,
was
I know it is so true. It's like perspectives, and I think that
yeah,
we all go on these journeys, and sometimes we don't know the roots of something, and so
yeah,
sometimes we look at players and we're like, oh, they make all this money and they do like all this fancy stuff, and sometimes
yeah.
it's like those minor leagues when you started, you are just. But I have to say, it's like that passion just like for me, I didn't care that I was working in the minor leagues for the NBA. I was so
Right,
proud to have finally gotten myself in the front office side of things to work in the
right,
NBA. I was just like out of my mind.
right, right,
But
right.
it's like that stuff where I remember we worked in the civic center and it was like I looked at a cinder wall block, like cinder blocks all day on the
Yeah,
wall. And like, the
yeah.
places that you were playing, there's nothing sexy about it. But it
Right.
was the start.
It was a start, and at the time you were excited. You had a lot of
Oh,
energy because of the possibilities
yeah.
that could happen. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, you play a game. We're playing. I don't know. We're playing Austin, the Austin Toros, right? We just lose to them in overtime, and we're flying back on the same plane with them to
Oh,
go
yeah.
play them on a back to back at our place after this guy
Yeah.
just scored 30 on you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like those things. It was a great experience. I think as a young man, if you don't make the NBA as a as a youth, I think they should do it for women too. I think that would be awesome.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah, that'd be awesome.
if you don't make it to the NBA, that you should experience the G League at least 1 year
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's a really unique experience. It teaches you a lot, you how to manage things, how to prepare yourself. I think one of the biggest things, the toughest things that pro athletes need to figure out is what's your regiment and how you're gonna
Oh, yeah.
prepare yourself each game and each day. And
Yeah.
you kind of learn that in the G League because you don't have a lot of resources at that time.
No, it's so true. And this was not at all planned for this conversation, but since you're going there, I think it's so interesting. Like all the advances that have happened with like NIL and all this kind of stuff. Part of me, it's like, it's great. But at the same time, if those opportunities don't come with the education, the stuff to set them up for success. I remember
Gonna
back in
blow
the
up.
day, it was like those NBA player programs and stuff and everything. But because to your point, it like prepares you for the next step. And
It
when the
does.
when the D League started, it was supposed to be very much this like training ground for the front office as well as for the players on the court and the coaches and all that kind of stuff. And you'd get called up, air quotes, called up, whether
Right.
you were in the front office or playing. That was what we were all hoping for. And
Right.
but it was like this preparation to get you because yeah, I mentioned this earlier. Like I often talk about it as headlights. I cannot imagine you go from like Georgetown to like, again, all of a sudden if you were all of a sudden in the NBA, if it wasn't the lockout. I mean, it would be great, but at the same time, talk about headlights. Like, how the hell are you supposed to manage your life, your image, your
Right.
game, your all of that? It's like it's crazy.
Now let's take that a step further, Sean. And like now think about going from Georgetown to now playing overseas.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
you're playing in arena, you're playing at that time, now it's Capital One. It was MCI Center and Verizon Center back when I was, playing, but
yeah,
you're playing there is 19,000. Now you're playing in arenas of 4,000, 5,000,
yeah.
and after practice, you're used to just putting your stuff in a laundry bag and they
Insane.
washing it for you. But no, you gotta pay for that. Sometimes you may have to tape your own ankles.
Oh,
You know, you gotta get your own. You gotta get sometimes if
yeah.
you don't have ice, things of that nature. Like it's a whole different world.
Right.
That's what people don't understand. People are like, oh, you go overseas, you get to experience overseas, you get to experience different countries. Like, yeah, it's a lot of that comes with that.
Yeah,
It's a lot that
exactly.
comes with that, and I think that it propels you and helps you later down in the road when you want to move on to whatever next you want to move on to or whatever else.
Mhm.
You come back home, you start to appreciate things at a much different level than you did previously, so
Yeah,
it's really interesting. So you're going from the D League and all that stuff, then you go overseas and you experience how they live in overseas and just the cultural differences.
yeah,
You come back and that transition over and doing that over and over, you start seeing how things are so drastically different.
right.
It's really amazing. I've been able to see it now for I've been moving back and forth for 10 years
Oh yeah, yeah.
overseas and seeing that. Oh man, it's really amazing to see.
That's amazing. So, if you don't mind me asking, where I said earlier about, and I've read some of the stuff about, your wife and your children, and like, can you talk about that dynamic? And I mean, talk about all that transitioning and whether it was even, the journey that you've been through with your health and, I don't, any of that, like from a family perspective and managing that. Like, what's that all about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I
Besides difficult.
excuse me.
I said, besides difficult, what's that all about? How's
Well, I
that?
mean, it's been my consistent. So it's been my
Yeah.
constant. So that's actually hasn't been the difficult for me.
Oh,
So fortunately, I met my wife at 13 years old. We were friends.
okay.
I met in my high school gym. I was working basketball camp, and she actually
Okay.
came to me. But that's no,
Oh.
that's but no, we for me, after my rookie year, I was by myself. I was in Turkey by myself, and we reconnected. My wife played college basketball.
All
She
right.
ended up coaching at George Washington University and also coaching at High Point University. Um, and so we were always friends. We always kind of stayed in contact. We always kind of, high school, we go to like homecoming and stuff like that together. And then, she went to a different school. So we ain't see each other all the time. So I'm kind of doing my thing. She's doing her thing. You know how that goes. It's high school.
Yeah.
So, so in college goes, she's a year ahead of me as well. So we reconnected after my rookie year, actually, when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Mm.
And her father is the reason why we reconnected. I saw him in the store. I'm in there. I don't know what I was doing. I was in the mall buying something or doing something, just whatever. And he's like, "Hey, Chris, what's up? How you been?" Da, 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 da. He said, "Man, have you talked to Aaron lately?" I'm like, "Nah, I haven't." He said, "Take your number down." I'm like, "Okay." This is not how I expected it, but all right. Pops is saying, "Talk to my daughter." So, and that's how we reconnected.
Okay.
And from the first time we hung out, first time we went on a date, I told her, I was upfront with her. I was like, I have multiple sclerosis. I don't know what that exactly means in totality. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I put my best little spin on it. I like it, da 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 da, this and the third, blah blah blah. And she went for it. And but we had always had a connection. Never
Right,
got
right.
into any arguments. We were always really connected, always. And
Yeah.
so that was the easy kind of transition. So then we started to date and started to, in my first year, I decided, after I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I decided to stay home and play in the
Mm.
D League
Okay.
because I wanted to be familiar. I wanted to just kind of get on track with, it's such a new lifestyle for me.
Right,
At
right.
that time, the medicine that I was taking, I was getting an IV injection once per month.
Oh, okay.
So at that time, I didn't really want to leave the States. I said, let me stay home. Let me try to figure this out. Let me,
Hmm, hmm.
that was the route that I took. And she was working college basketball. She was coaching college basketball at High Point University. And so we got pregnant. She got pregnant with our first at High Point, and I was like, listen, this is what we're gonna do. You either gonna come with me, or I'm gonna just stop playing, and we're gonna figure this out. Because I'm not gonna be. I didn't want to be away from my child. I didn't want to be
Right.
away from my child ever, never. That
Uh-huh.
was always my thing. My dad
Okay.
wasn't away from me. I wasn't away from. I'm a big family person. Always wanted to be a
Okay.
family. Always wanted to have a family young. I don't know
Uh-huh.
why, but I did.
Yeah.
And so she was like, all right. So we made a pact and we started traveling the world together. And we've always done that. So my first
Okay.
year I went to France. We lived in Lyon, France. And then after France, where did we go? This was so many years ago. We went to Italy. We went
Uh,
to Israel, and we've been traveling. Like my son's first words, and we now have 3 kids. I have my son CJ, he's the oldest. Then I have 2 daughters, Charlotte. My son just turned 10 last
oh.
week. We were in Barcelona for his birthday, and then my daughter Charlotte, she's turning 7
Okay.
in like a week. Um, then my youngest Camilla is 3 years old,
Oh.
and it's been great. They've been able to experience. They spent 6 years. My son has spent most of his life in Italy, but his first
Uh-huh.
words were in Hebrew because we were in Israel.
Okay. That's
His
so
first
cool.
first time walking, we were in France. He was walking in France. So it's been a great experience for them to experience many different cultures, many different people. And my wife
Right.
loves to travel.
Oh,
So,
nice.
it's been a win-win situation. And for me, I've enjoyed it just for the simple fact that, one thing about being overseas and playing overseas, you can get really lonely, especially on the
Mm,
holidays, especially because there's no family there. There's no people that you can
yeah.
connect with. But for me, having my family with me and being able for them to experience everything, it's really been, icing on the cake for all this. That's what makes things easy. And it kind of keeps me in line. Like, if I have a bad game, I
Yeah.
can't bring it in the house. After I leave I gotta be daddy now. I gotta be a husband. I can't be, you gotta how you say compartmentalize all of that.
Compartmentalize. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
compartmentalize all of that, so that actually has been a way for me to be disciplined and organized, and it's been a lot of fun.
Mm. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I had wondered what it was like with you, with the traveling and stuff, with your treatments and everything. And,
Yeah.
again, also one of the things I was going to ask you is like, what have been some of the things that have helped you to stay grounded through it? But I love that the way you talk about it. And I think as people are listening, it doesn't matter what area of, I'll call it a career you have. I think some of the things that you're talking about are so relatable about priorities, the circle you keep, how do you set your life up to work for you? And I think,
Right.
I had this moment in when I was in my late 30s. I was still in New York with my husband, and we were like, we finally found each other, and we are like, we have one shot at this together. We finally found each other. Where do we actually want to live and be happy and create the life that fuels us? And I think, that's been was a huge shift and transition from what I used to live, which was like all work 24/7, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. And
Right.
so I just think it's great to be being so real about this. I think is really helpful for people who are listening, because so many
Mhm.
times we compromise our priorities. We kind of do what others may expect, but I think there is an element of being able to shape your life and so that you can actually be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it was certain things it was some non-negotiables that I had. Like I was like, yo, y'all coming with me, or I'm gonna stop this and I'm gonna figure this out. Like it was just how it was. And
Yeah.
so me and my wife have been married now for 7 years, and it's going on 8 years in June. And this is something that I wanted to do, and something that she wanted to do. And so our paths align with where we wanted to go. And so it's been fun. It's been a journey. We've been, we move twice a year, obviously, because we come over here and then we got to go back. We have our home in DC, but it's like we're always on the go. We're always on the go. But I personally enjoy it. Yes, it can be a pain in the ass carrying 10 bags through the airport. Yes, it definitely can. It sucks at times, but all in all, it's a good experience.
Well, that is awesome, folks. You heard it all here. Thank you for everything you're doing for your own evolution, for the evolution of others around you, and to create positive impact in this world. Everybody have an awesome day. Thank you.